Welcome to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. Your home for the latest news from the National Lacrosse League and indoor lacrosse. Now, let's talk some lacrosse with your hosts, Jake Elliott and Evan Schemenauer.
Hello, lacrosse fans. Welcome back to Lacrosse Classified. Lax Class here on the Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network, where we grow the game one podcast at a time. This is episode number 52. A full year of podcasts here on Lacrosse Classified. It's Jake Elliott. I'm Jake Elliott. My partner, Evan Schemenauer, is on the other line. He's back in Saskatoon as we roll out episode number 52 here for you on a Tuesday. Thanks for joining us once again. Great program lined up for you as we continue our Stampede Tack NLL season previews. Another two teams to talk about here this week. Evan, daylight savings time. It's now 2 hours later in Saskatoon. I'm still trying to wrap my head. I love the fact that Saskatchewan just says, screw you to the rest of the country and says, we're not changing our clocks. This is the way it is.
We do it. Arizona does it actually as well. They stay on Pacific Standard Time all year. But here's the funny part. Daylight savings time, the excuse was that it would help farmers. Well, Saskatchewan's the province in Saskatchewan or in Canada with the most farmers, and we don't use it. And you will never convince people in Saskatchewan to switch their clocks. It screws up our television watching schedule because most of the channels are out of province. So it's like, okay, now 6 o'clock shows start at 7, but the toll it takes on the body. I remember living in places where they did it and having, either waking up at 5, 6 in the morning all of a sudden because your body's used to it, or being late for work. Yeah, because your body's I don't make no sense.
I don't care if it's fall back, spring forward, whatever. It throws you off your routine. And I think I don't know, how long has this been in existence? I don't want to get off here too far on daylight savings.
It was one of the world wars that they implemented.
It's ridiculous. It sounds like some other people are going to hop on board with Saskatchewan. This may be the last time we go through it. Let's keep our fingers crossed on that.
I still remember in Bermuda it was hilarious because this one here where you fall back, the pubs closed at 3 a.m., so 2 a.m. fell back to 1 a.m., so you got the extra hour drinking in the night.
No, I remember that. I remember those days back then where you'd be at the bar and then you'd realize, hey, we get an extra hour. That was always a big one. Talked about having a great program here today, Evan, and I want to let you know who's coming on the show. We got the general manager of the Rochester Knighthawks, the new Rochester Knighthawks. I don't know how long we have to say that for, but for this year, I think anyways. The new Rochester Knighthawks general manager, Dan Carey, will rejoin the program to give us a preview of the Knighthawks season, what's been going on around Blue Cross Arena as well. And then we'll head from the East Coast down to the West Coast, and I'm talking Southwest Coast, as we'll go to SoCal and talk to the head coach and general manager of the San Diego Seals in one, Patrick Merrill. I'm looking forward to talking to these two guys as well, Evan.
So Rochester's on the east coast of Lake Ontario?
Well, I've never really been a geography major, Evan. I know they're in the Eastern time zone. I could probably find Rochester on a map. I know there's no water around Rochester. There's like a river that goes through there, I think, but you got me there. Not on the East Coast. You know what I'm saying, Evan. It's early.
Yeah, I know. No, but Rochester's had an interesting time. Of course, we talked to Dan Carey the last time, just hours after he finished the expansion draft. So now he's gone from a lineup of, I think it's actually about 10 or 11 because he had made a few deals by that point, to now having a 30, 40-man roster going into camp and seeing how the teams evolve from there.
Well, let's talk about those Rochester Knighthawks as we get into our NLL season previews. Brought to you by Stampede, Tack, and Western Wear, your complete source for boots, hats, motorcycle leathers and gear. Summer riding season is gone, but fall riding season is here. All the more reason to get outfitted in the proper attire when you're out there on your motorcycle during this beautiful fall weather we're having here in BC, Evan. The trees, the leaves, all of it in full spectacle. This is one of my favorite times of the year. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, but it's like the perfect. You can wear whatever you want out there. It's like one of my favorite times of the year, and all the trees and the leaves and everything. Yeah. It's beautiful.
See here, well, we have a little bit of snow. It didn't all melt yesterday, but it hit -12 last night, which for those in the U.S. is about, say, 10 degrees. But
that's
still
spring for Saskatoon. That's spring for Saskatoon, right there.
But you know what? Like I said, we got 98.9 cents a liter fuel here, so we're not complaining too much.
Over 150, I think, at my last look here in BC. By the way, if you want to shop online, you can do so at Stampede.ca, where shopping online is still shopping local, or you can head out to Cloverdale and check out the big store there at Stampede Tack and Western Wear. I know a lot of our listeners didn't really know about Stampede Tack when they started listening to Lacrosse Classified, and whether they've won a prize or not, they've made their way out to Stamp, and they're absolutely blown away. Like, I know a couple of our listeners, they say it's like their favorite store now after being inside Stampede Tack and Western Wear. It's cool in there.
Yeah, and it's actually got a crazy selection. You'd never think in the middle of Cloverdale that something like this would exist, but when I look at Lowley's here in Saskatoon, which is the closest thing we got to it, Stampede Tack's floor space is about twice as big.
It's massive. It's absolutely massive in there. All right, let's get into this here, Evan. Rochester, let's start with their expansion draft acquisitions. And you send me the notes for both teams before you do the preparation for this. I got to give you credit on this because it's awesome the way you kind of lay this out for us. But I'm looking at this expansion draft acquisition list, and it pops off the page to me like, whoa, they did really well in expansion. Sean Evans, Holden Catoni, Curtis Knight, Danny Lintner, Steve Fryer, and Rylan Hartley. That's pretty loaded.
It's loaded up front. Now, there wasn't much defensive selections in there. Shane Simpson was traded back after they picked him. But
I mean, that's a starting lineup, though, offensively in the NLL right there. Those five guys. Yeah. And then you got two goaltenders, an established goaltender and Steve Fryer, who everybody projected as kind of the best backup in the NLL. We'll see how that pans out there in Rochester. But they also get the guy that everybody thinks is kind of the next one in goal, and Rylan Hartley as well.
And we're going to have to ask Dan Carey about that, because you've got a seasoned backup who's going to get his chance, but you also got the best goaltender kind of a junior in about 3-4 years since Del Bianco got drafted. So, which direction are you going here? Is Fryer's number one job a safe? I don't know if it is.
I don't think you anoint a number one with an expansion team. Yeah, the Steve Fryer is the elder statesman. He's the guy with more experience, but I don't think you tell Steve Fryer or Rylan Hartley, hey, this is Steve Fryer's job. You're going to have to take it from him. You're going to have to battle. I think you come into a camp with a total open slate and let these guys duke it out through training camp, exhibition games, what have you, and let the cream rise to the top here.
Now, of course, the downside is, and this is part of what we're going to discuss in a bit, but one of their big expansion draft picks, Frank Brown, just got put on the physically unable to perform list. And for a defense that was as thin as it was already in Rochester, just got a lot thinner. And Zach Reed, of course, is the other one that just got put on that list.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the departures and injuries before we get to the free agent acquisitions then, Evan. You mentioned Frank Brown and Zach Reed, both put on the physically unable to perform list. You mentioned Shane Simpson traded for Turner Evans in a 3-way deal that sent Goodwin in a 3rd-round pick to Vancouver, Chris Wardle for Garetano and Mallory ends up in Vancouver for Burton in a 2nd-rounder. So there's a young, up-and-coming defenseman that they really coveted in Burton. And, yeah, I think they're way more loaded up front than they are on defense. I think they're going to be fine in goal. But the free agent pickups, I think that's where they kind of addressed on the back end, and a couple of good veterans in Jay Thornbert and Paul Dawson. Of course, Dylan Evans, who's got championship experience with Rochester. Phil Caputo, he's been knocking on the door trying to get a starting job in the NLL for the last 3 or 4 years, I would say. And Pat Saunders, who is obviously a depth guy up front, but their free agent acquisitions, they get a lot of experience there and guys that have been around the loop for a number of years.
And that's critical. I mean, with most expansion teams, you're picking up bottom guys or guys that really never had a chance. They don't have a lot of that. Now, they're going to have a lot of that on their defense. They still, even with their free agent pickups, they still only partially address their defense. The Mike Mallory trade really surprised me because he was on the practice roster, from what I recall, in Colorado most of the year.
Yeah.
So to get Burton and a second rounder for him was like, wow.
Yeah,
right?
I think that was a pretty big steal, and I think we made mention of that. When the deal went down, is that I don't know if Mallory was ever going to play in Colorado, but Vancouver was really dead set on getting Mike Mallory, and I think they might have jumped the shark a little bit as far as going after him as quickly and as aggressively as they did. Like, I think they could have probably sat back and got him a little bit cheaper, but they get their man, and I don't think Burton ever wanted to be in Vancouver. He wanted to play back east, and I think it all worked out. Like, Wardle, they wanted him back in Colorado. They get him. Rochester wanted Burton. Vancouver wanted Mallory, and all these three teams got together and just made the deal happen. I think everybody's pretty happy.
That wasn't a three-way deal. That wasn't a three-way deal. The three-way deal was Westberg going from Calgary to San Diego, and Turner Evans came back to Calgary as part of that deal and then got sent to Rochester.
Yeah, but the Wardle, Mallory, Burton deal was a three-way deal, right? Kind of. Yeah, I mean,
they were two separate trades.
Right, two separate trades, but with the thought in mind that this was all going to happen. So we'll talk to Dan Carey about it all, but before we do, let's get to their draft picks. And again, they go after offensive players in the expansion draft, but in the entry draft, they draft 3 defensive guys. So clearly a plan here for Dan Carey as he gets Ryland Reese at number 2 overall. Clearly the best D guy coming out of into the draft, and I think they're super happy to get Ryland Reese, who's got Minto Cup, Team Canada, 4-year career in college as well. So he goes 2nd overall. Corey Highfeld, Oakville Rock, super impressive. I think 6 Nations, if I recall, as well. And I was really impressed with Corey Highfeld in his Senior A debut with the Rock left-hander transition guy, and then Dustin Pratt as well, who they get at 32nd overall.
Yeah, the Ryland Reese, of course, we talked with New England just recently, and they stated they would have taken Reese had he been available. Saskatchewan was salivating to get him at 4. So they've got the best defender in the draft by a mile. But whether that's going to be enough this year, I don't know. I got a bad feeling that Rochester's going to be playing some old Georgia Swarm games, 17-15 style.
Nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that. Love the goals. Love the goals. You always give me the scheduling quirks here, Evan, and so far through all the teams that we've done so far, Rochester has got the pick of the litter here, Evan. 8 of their 9 games are on Saturday nights. Trust me when I say this, all teams want Saturday night games on their schedule, and Rochester gets 8 of 9 on Saturday night, 1 on a Sunday, and they'll host the former Knighthawks, now the Thunderbirds, twice in March. This is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun to watch, and it'll be interesting to see what the crowd's reaction is, because they've loved those players now in Halifax for years, and now they're coming back as the opposition. So we'll have to wait and see how the crowd reacts. But yeah, it's nice that now with the Pagula family owning the Knighthawks, they own the arena, and then you can start to get your preferred dates. It's a little easier. That was one problem really with the former Knighthawks, that they weren't getting the prime dates.
Yeah. And
the crowds reflected that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I know Nighthawk fans, like I think I know Nighthawk fans, it's not good. I mean, they may, the first time back, they may, give the boys a round of applause, but I don't think it's going to take too long for the Rochester Nighthawk fans to find a disdain and a hate for the Thunderbirds like they do for the Rock or the Bandits for that matter. And they're going to love their team. They're going to hate the other teams, and that's what makes Rochester fans some of the best in the league.
No question, they're going to be fired up. Like I said, though, it's, Cody Jamieson, they've had
like I said, I think they pay their respects.
Years, right?
Yeah, I think they pay their respects. They acknowledge the championships that roster brought to Rochester over the last several years. But then I think that goes away pretty quickly. I think they acknowledge it, and then they move on from it, and then it's like, we don't like you.
But they also got a former long-term Nighthawk and Paul Dawson back that they only lost for, about 4 or 5 weeks.
And, of course, they still got their head coach as well, right, Mike Hazen?
Yes, they do.
Well, there you go. We're going to talk to Dan Carey about it all here very shortly, in about 10 minutes from now. But let's get on to San Diego here before we get to Mr. Carey, Evan. Expansion draft losses for the Seals. Rylan Hartley and Connor Kelly, two guys that have a bright future in this league, but I think when you're looking at it as a whole for a new team in the league to lose those two guys, maybe Hartley is a tough pill to swallow because the kid's going to be a great goalie, but I think they can swallow this pill here, losing Kelly and Hartley in the expansion draft.
The issue with Hartley is that you can only protect one goaltender, and you're not going to not protect Frank Scigliano.
Exactly.
So that was the problem. So Hartley became exposed, and Dan Carey wasted no time. I think it was the third round picking up Hartley before anybody else was gone on Seals. Connor Kelly, a first-round draft pick of theirs, a tough loss, but they've got Connor Fields, and they've still got a lot of the pieces of that offense, especially Austin Staats and, Casey Jackson and all the other guys that are there, and they still got a very good offense. Unfortunately, you're going to have to lose somebody because you can only protect 5 forwards.
Acquisitions for the San Diego Seals. They get a couple of Denver Pioneer products in one Jeremy Noble, and then they make the deal for Wesley Berg, and that right side just got a whole lot better that much quicker. And then they add on the left side as well, the veteran Zach Greer goes from Colorado to San Diego. That kind of surrounding work commitments and what he was able to do as far as his schedule goes, he ends up in San Diego, and they get another veteran in Mike Carnegie.
It's going to be a loaded offense, and I guess that's what we'll have to talk with Merrill about, because it's a loaded offense, but the defense is still a little weak, and when we get into one of the holdouts, it's a very key piece of that defense.
We'll get to the little tease there from Evan Schemenauer. I like it, Evan. You're learning. Departures from San Diego. Zach Miller traded to Georgia. Turner Evans traded to Rochester via Calgary. They lose Paulie Dawson to unrestricted free agent, as they do to brother Dan to Toronto. And Tyler Carlson, the backup goaltender there in San Diego, no longer with the team as well. I'm going to miss TC diving into the hot tub in full goalie gear for San Diego.
They got a hot tub in Denver that they can dive into.
Even a better hot tub,
there.
Yeah. Might have some company in that hot tub if he does it there.
Yeah, and the Seals have Nick DeMood, who's one of the better junior goaltenders, so they got a decent backup that they want to try to start to develop. That won't be an issue. Dan Dawson is one of the veteran leaders on the offense. That's definitely going to be missed, but he gets to go home. That's one of the keys there. But, yeah, Paul Dawson losing another defender, even though he was only there for a short time. He wasn't there the whole season. They're all little pieces that are missing, and the other real difference with San Diego this year, a year ago they had signed, 40, 50 players at one point. It was crazy that they were literally, let's bring everybody in, let's see what we can put together. They haven't signed that many players this year.
No, and like what? I mean, it's just you were kind of lingering around Saskatchewan training camp this weekend back there in Saskatoon, Evan, and they got like 3 extra guys in camp that have a chance to make the deal. Derek Keenan does not mess around when it comes to training camp. He is into his systems virtually on day 2. And the team, that's the way they approach it. They like to kind of know, okay, this is going to be our team. Why waste any time giving guys shots that we know 95% aren't going to have a chance to make the squad? Let's just get into things and get rolling early.
Yeah, when you look at the defense, right, You know, when you got guys like Corbeil, Rubish, Dilks, Cornwall, like this is an established defense. Oh, Brett Mitzke, of course, taking the year off, which created a little bit of a hole. But now you've got...
Well, that's a big hole, Evan. Let's not kid ourselves.
So,
that's a big hole.
Yeah, you know, Mike Messenger, and, you know, the list goes on. There's really not an opportunity for a youngster to crack the lineup all that easy. So why bother? And even up front, they've only got 4 lefties in camp, or 4 righties.
Yeah.
We know who the 4 guys making the squad are. No, it's just time to get, you know, the young Thompson, you know, used to the system so that he can be on that active roster right away.
Yeah, be ready to go. We'll talk about Saskatchewan next week, Evan, as we'll have Jamie Dowick and Jammer Derek Keenan on the program a week from. We only got 3 teams left after this week, Evan. That's crazy to think about that we've gone through our season. That just means that the season is that much closer to beginning. But we're on to San Diego here, and a couple of big unknowns for the Seals listed down here in the holdout list, in Adrian Soroketti, and then their number 1 pick overall from last year, of course, went down with a knee injury, Austin Staats, and we don't know kind of the status of Audie right now, and we'll have to ask Pat Merrill how the recovery is going and when they expect Staats to return, whether it'll be ready for training camp or what. But those are 2 big key pieces in their lineup that's kind of up in the air right now.
Debate earlier this week is, if you were to put together a 21-man roster, who would you have on it? And Austin Staats makes my lefty list. He honestly does. That's how good he is. So that is a massive piece. He went down in April and is typically a 10 to 12-month recovery process. So how quickly he'll be back and how quickly he'll be back into game shape, we don't know.
Yeah.
Adrian Soroketti, though, is a massive loss. And once again, the defense isn't as deep as the offense is. And you can't afford to miss a fabulous transition player like Soroketti.
No, he was one of their prize acquisitions from a year ago, and I'm sure they'll get it done. And I think, you know, probably Soroketti holds the hammer there a little bit. They know it, he knows it, and that's probably what's going on there. But they'll get that done. I'm sure they will. Draft picks, first-round pick traded away for Wes Berg. Matt Sykes at 25. Devin Maea at 28. I'm going to be honest here, Evan. I do not know a whole lot about Maea or Sykes.
Neither do I. If I'm not mistaken, one of them is an American. So
we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But kind of interesting they go kind of off the board there at 28 and 25. We'll ask Pat Merrill about those 2 guys. He's usually really plugged in on what's happening around his players coming up. So very good recruiter, very good scouter is Pat Merrill, and we'll talk why he decided to pick those 2 guys. Scheduling quirks here, Evan. And listen, I got myself a little hot water, and I want to be careful of this. 2 home games listed as TBA, Colorado on February 1st, Vancouver February 22nd. We still don't know what's happening with those 2 games for the Seals home schedule. We'll maybe talk to Pat about that. We'll might just kind of bring it up, see what he says, but we might just gloss over that one as well for my own well-being, if you know what I'm saying there.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
Okay.
We kind of have an idea as to what's happening with these, but nothing official yet.
And we want to wait for the official announcement before we discuss anything here on Lacrosse Classified. That's kind of where we're going with that. They make this is nuts. San Diego goes from Tijuana to like Russia here, Evan. San Diego to Halifax. Man, is that a journey.
And it's even worse the fact that about half of the Seals team lives in Market. So they actually have to make this trip.
Ooh.
I'm going to imagine that because those players live in Market and they're full-time pretty much with the team, they're going to make that journey out there 2 or 3 days early just to adjust to, 4 hours time difference. I
don't know if the owner of the Seals, Mr. Joe Tsai, has a private jet. I'm just going to say he might have more than one, Evan, for all I know, but it might be charter weekend there for the Seals with that flight itinerary. Just get the big jet in there and whisk those guys over.
There's a direct flight though between New York and Halifax, so it's not that bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So San Diego Seals schedule, we'll see how all that plays out, and we'll talk to Pat Merrill about it all, as well as we'll get into these two conversations here on the other side. This is Lacrosse Classified. This is the Stampede Tack NLL season preview series, and this is Rochester and San Diego this week for episode number 52. Jake Elliott, Evan Sheminar with you, and soon to be joined by the Rochester Knighthawks general manager on the other side here on Lacrosse Classified. Keep it right here, locked on Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Kylie Miller of The Fight of the WPLL. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on Lax All-Stars, growing the game one podcast at a time.
Welcome back to Lacrosse Classified here on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. And before we get to Dan Carey here, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take a moment and welcome a brand new sponsor to the podcast, and it is the Vancouver Warriors right here of the National Lacrosse League. The Vancouver Warriors have joined up with Lacrosse Classified, and I want to tell you that they kick off their season with a game against the champion Calgary Roughnecks on Friday, November the 29th at Rogers Arena. For tickets, visit VancouverWarriors.com or call 604-899-4625. Then you hit option 3. Somebody's going to answer the phone. You're going to talk to somebody with the Vancouver Warriors. You're going to buy yourself some tickets and go to Vancouver Warriors game where nothing is offside. That's what they're going with, Evan. Nothing offside at the Warriors game. It's going to be a real party atmosphere inside Rogers Arena this season. And so happy and pleased and proud to welcome the Vancouver Warriors on board here as a sponsor.
Oh, absolutely love it. And it kind of just shows the growth of the show as well, that they're going to take a chance on us. It's Rogers Arena. It's downtown. It's right after work. Most of the games are on Fridays. No excuse. Get down there, have the time of your life, and even if you don't know the game of lacrosse that well, enjoy the party.
Yep, and we'll be giving you some more information in the coming weeks about different ticket options and all sorts of stuff that's going to be happening with the Vancouver Warriors. So welcome aboard, Warriors. And we're going to talk to General Manager Dan Richardson in a couple of weeks, as Vancouver is obviously the last team alphabetically on our list. So we'll talk to Big Dan Richardson in a couple of weeks from now. But right now, waiting on the line is the General Manager of the Rochester Knighthawks, coming back onto the podcast here. It's Dan Carey. Dan, thanks for doing this once again.
No worries, guys.
Well, a busy time of the year for you, Dan Carey. Training camps, season just around the corner. We've been kind of going down the list here, talking to all the GMs about their upcoming season, what their roster looks like, what they think are going to be their chances coming into this year. So Rochester up this week. We appreciate you doing this. We're going to start with your expansion draft acquisitions. And Evan and I talked about this off the top of the show. And this list here of the guys that you got in the expansion draft really jumped off the page to me. Offensively, for sure, but you bolster your goaltending as well. Evans, Catoni, Knight, Lintner. Like, that's a starting lineup in the National Lacrosse League. And then you probably get the best goaltender that wasn't a starter last year in the NLL, and probably the best goaltender to be drafted in the NLL in the past 3 or 4 years as well, and Rylan Hartley. You got to be real excited about your expansion picks.
Yeah, absolutely. We had our first training camp last weekend on the 25th of October, and we got to see our guys finally in action. There's some that I've gotten to know really well, and same with their staff, and then there's some guys that I've watched for a long time and just haven't had that kind of up close interaction with them, personally, but also watching them in a practice and different setting. For me, you get to see what guys are like, and you become fans of them and what they can bring on the floor and off the floor, and what you know. But there's a couple guys that really stood out. In particular, those guys that you mentioned, they just bring an element that you weren't even sure that they had. So we're really excited about those guys. But some free agents coming in and guys that we were able to draft, we're excited about the guys that we have on our roster, and it's going to be some tough decisions, as I'm sure every team is going to go through to make our final roster.
2 goaltenders he took in the expansion draft, Fryer and Hartley. very different here in that you've got a veteran in Fryer who's been a backup waiting for his chance for several years, and you got Hartley who's got a phenomenal junior resume, no NLL experience yet other than being on a practice roster. Do you have a bona fide number one going into camp, or is it kind of you're going to see how the season goes and play those first few games and get a feel for which guy you're going to go with?
No, we don't have a bona fide one, and I think that goes for a lot of our other positions as well. Offensively, we know what we get for some of the guys, but you mentioned it. Steve Fryer has taken a ton of shots as a National Lacrosse League backup and third string goalie in the summers. He's played a lot of minutes recently, and we believe that he's a guy that is ready for an opportunity. And then you've got Ryland Hartley, who, like you mentioned, he's arguably one of the best, young goalie prospects coming into this league. And, we've got our work cut out for us to make sure that we do our job to evaluate these guys and have the right guys coming into game one. We've got Craig Wendy is another guy that's competing for a job. And, ultimately we had some inter squad scrimmages and some practices last weekend, and all three, looked more than capable of helping us this year. So, I think as tough as some of these decisions are, we're gonna have a good idea of where we're at, and the direction we're gonna go, especially for game one after we get through our training camp. So, we're excited about, what the three goalies that we have in camp, the potential that they have to earn a spot.
Speaking with General Manager of the Rochester Knighthawks, Dan Carey, and a lot of wheeze in there, Dan, about talking about training camp and evaluating. When you go into a situation like this in training camp, and obviously you have the final say when it comes to roster decisions, but Mike Hazen will be included in those conversations. But when you're evaluating players in training camp, especially kind of unknown commodities, what's kind of the checklist that you're looking for, and how does that process work with your staff on picking players for that final roster? Do you guys kind of sit down around a conference table and go through a list and talk about the player's fitness, their practice habits, their character, their talent, what their skill set is, all these different things? How do you kind of whittle it down and say, this is our guy for your active roster?
I think it's all those things that are included. So after each session we had for our first training camp, we meet after every practice, after every session, and evaluate our guys, and we kind of start fresh and in a clean slate after every practice, every scrimmage. It just gives us a better way to evaluate from our comfort level. But ultimately, this is a team game. It's something that we all have to have a say in and be involved with. I don't want to push, 21 active players on our coaching staff and not give them, I don't think that's the case for any team, but ultimately it's a team decision, and we have to all be comfortable with the guys that we end up with on our active and practice roster. There's probably some players we might not agree with. Not to say that we wouldn't be happy with those guys or accepting those guys, but it might be, the final spots that one coach or myself might prefer over the next guy. But ultimately, we all have to live with the decisions we make, knowing that, even the few of the cuts that we made after week one were guys that we felt could probably play in the NLL. So it's finding the right guys that fit within our culture, fit within our team, the team chemistry with the other guys that we do have on our roster. If there's an element that we feel might be missing, then do we add that type of element from one of those final roster spots? So, we have an idea of what we want to accomplish and the type of players and people and culture we want to create. Now it's just a matter of finding the right players that we think are suitable for, this organization.
You had a bit of bad news this week. Frank Brown, Zach Reed going on a physically unable to perform list. Is there a timeline for these guys to get back, or are we looking at a season?
Zach Reed, so we picked him up as a free agent. We knew he was injured. He had previous injuries, so we're going to be patient with him. He was upfront with us before we signed him. So there's really no timetable on him. Frank Brown, he's kind of in a similar situation. We were aware of his issue. He felt he'd be back in time for training camp. But it's been a little bit slower process than he anticipated. So, no timeline that I could give you guys at this point, but, for us, those are two guys that, we're looking forward to seeing, back 100% healthy to kind of contribute on our end.
Speaking with Dan Carey of the Rochester Knighthawks here, and as heavy as he went in the expansion draft with offensive players and goaltenders, it really seems to me like the plan laid out here by you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Dan, but in your free agent signings and in your draft picks was to acknowledge or go after defensemen here in Thornburg and Dawson and Evans, and then you draft Ryland Reese, the best D guy in the draft. You get Corey Highfeld, a good transition guy as well. Was that kind of the plan for you from the get-go, or after going through your expansion draft said, okay, now we're pretty good here offensively, let's pay attention to the defense here and look for some quality D guys?
When I took over, my goal, my plan was to find and acquire the highest caliber of players and talent that I could initially and build around those players. So, for me in the expansion draft, it just so happened to be those players that we felt were, ended up being offensive players. The ones that you mentioned earlier with Evans and Whitner and Knight and Tony, we brought in Turner Evans with one of those picks that we swapped and now, we get to kind of round out a few of the defensemen that we were able to acquire in expansion, free agency, as well as the entry draft. So, ultimately, I came into this wanting to find the best available players that we can build around, and knowing that as an expansion team, depth is something that we, potential issue that we have to deal with. But to be honest, we don't know how we're going to stack up until we start to play games. And scrimmages is always the proper indicator of that. But we have some really difficult decisions to make defensively, and that was one thing that we did try to address more in the draft. So we're in a situation where we really have to get this right, because some of these younger guys are going to be pushing others to make the final roster.
You've had the chance to build a team from scratch in Rochester. You had a chance to take an existing team and make it better in Colorado. Which experience has been more enjoyable?
I can't give you that answer. I don't know if one is more enjoyable. I loved Colorado, and that organization has meant a lot to me personally for a long time as, a past player and an alumni. The people within that organization, I still really care about, the players, the staff, everybody involved. So my time there was definitely enjoyable, and it was beneficial, and it was a great learning experience for me. And I'll say the same thing for Rochester, not really knowing who I was going to be hiring with staff and who we were going to acquire with players. Really excited about where we're at and, what the future holds for us. So, you surround yourself with good people, and that's, included everybody with staff and players. It just makes it that much more enjoyable when everybody, is like-minded and kind of have the same concerns and the same cares for each other. So I can't say, I just love what I do and love being a part of the National Lacrosse League, and fortunate enough to have, worked in two different organizations that I feel really proud to be, I've been a part of and currently be a part of. So tough to give you that answer.
Yeah, I imagine so. I think getting to build a team from absolute scratch would be super cool. Like, it's like molding clay, and it's got to be a comforting fact knowing that it kind of starts with Mike Hazen as your head coach, and knowing the experience and everything that he has and what he brings to the table to kind of lead the ship a little bit has got to be a real comforting factor. As we speak with Dan Carey here, and I want to talk to you about the schedule. We kind of talked to all the GMs about their schedule, and so far at all the teams that we've talked to here, Dan, I think the Knighthawks have got the pick of the litter here. 8 out of your 9 home games are Saturday nights at the Blue Cross Arena, Sunday nighter in there as well, or Sunday afternooner in there as well. You got to be real happy with the schedule and everything that's gone on around Blue Cross Arena to kind of roll out to your fan base here to start off a new season. This got to be exciting. 6 Saturday night games, a bunch of renovations around Blue Cross for your brand new franchise here.
Yeah, the schedule is what it is, right? You get dates that you have to submit to the league that you have availability in the building. Ultimately, we're at the mercy of the programming that's in the Blue Cross, and every other team deals with the same thing in the NLL. So the dates you have to submit, and out of the choices that we made, we were fortunate enough to have the ones that we chose. So. Your opponent, it's tough, right? You have so many great teams, and I don't think there's ever an easy game on the schedule. So you look down and you're like, well, 18-0 or 0-18, or hopefully, it's so you just don't know, and you got to get out and compete. So for me, the schedule, obviously, the competition that we have is difficult, and it's something that you look forward to, right? That type of competition. That's why we're involved in this. So as far as our dates, I think our dates, we have buys now, right? We have more weeks within our season. So it just depends on how you look at it. And we're trying to put the positive spin on it to know that, hey, here's a great opportunity for us to start our first season here in Rochester.
Absolutely, and I think the cool part about it all is you're going to get the old Rochester team into your building twice this year, as the Halifax Thunderbirds are coming to town twice in March, and I know Nighthawk fans will be circling that one on their calendar. They're circling both those games on their calendar to kind of come and cheer on their new team and probably pay a little respect and then boo their old team as well. So it should be fun, Dan. Regular season just weeks away here, man. Best of luck with the rest of training camp, and good luck going into the first season here for the new Rochester Knighthawks. Can't wait to see it roll out in those beautiful new green jerseys as well.
Much appreciated. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. That was General Manager of the Rochester Knighthawks, Dan Carey. Always a good conversation there with Dan. And listen, when you're talking about Rochester, you're talking about the Riptide, and I know, we always like to compare the Seals and the Wings in their first year, Evan. On paper right now, I'm looking at the Knighthawks and saying these guys have a real legit shot to make the playoffs in year one.
The difficulty is they play in a very difficult division. Buffalo went to the finals last year. Halifax, as Rochester, went to the finals 2 years ago. And the Toronto Rock are a tough team. So that's really the difficulty, is trying to leapfrog at least one of them to try and get into a wild card position. That's the tough part. But much like the San Diego Seals, I like the talent that's on this team. So I think they got a shot.
So do I. And both you and I were at the World Championships there in Langley, and we saw a number of Rochester Nighthawk jerseys patrolling the concourse there at the Langley Event Center. And to see those jerseys up front and close and personal for the first time, Evan, not just us, but other people walking, look at those. Those are nice, beautiful. The Rochester greens, they're pretty.
Yeah, I was never a fan of the blue and teal.
I know you weren't. I totally was. Purple, but still am.
But I really like these ones. I like because there was a jersey that the old Nighthawks had for an alternate jersey 2 years ago or something in a game against Buffalo, where they had the Army colors.
They do a military.
And it was beautiful. And now that's exactly what they got for this season. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Can't wait to see the Nighthawks in their first action. And we're going to take a break, Kevin. We're going to go into quarter number 3. And on the other side, it's the second-year franchise, the San Diego Seals, and the man who's in charge of it all, the head coach and the general manager of the Seals, it's Pat Merrill. On the other side, episode 52 of Lax Class coming at you right here on Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network.
Pure Vita Labs is proud to bring you the highest quality sports supplements on the market. PVL products are 100% all natural with no artificial flavors, colors, or sweeteners. And the entire line is also Informed Choice certified. We designed all our products with the athlete in mind. We look forward to being a part of your athletic achievements, helping you push the bar higher, win at the highest levels, and set personal records for years to come.
Hey, this is Graham Hossick of the Halifax Thunderbirds and the Victoria Shamrocks. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Lacrosse Classified, Lax Class, if you will, here on the Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network. Jake Elliott, Evan Schemenauer with you. Just heard from our friends at Pure Vita Labs. Anything else would be unsportsmanlike. You can find them at pvl.com or at Pure Vita Labs. They're huge on the Instagram, always letting you know their latest products, recipes, anything you need to know about their supplements. You can find it via Instagram at Pure Vita Labs. One of the players for the next man we are about to talk to on those supplements in Wesley Berg, as we welcome back to the program the head coach and general manager of the San Diego Seals in Patrick Merrill. Pat, thanks for doing this once again.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure, man.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah, it's going great. It's going absolutely great. It's got to be going pretty great for you as well. I want to start here, Pat Merrills. I just saw the news kind of come across social media. Brand new facility for the Hill Academy. Unfortunately, your brother Brody's link on his Twitter post didn't take me to what I was looking for on Instagram, but maybe you can walk us through it here on Lax Class. This is fantastic news, man. Like, huge news. A brand new facility for the Hill Academy. Tell me about it.
Well, we're really, really excited and proud of the fact that we just secured a new location, a new campus for the Hill Academy. We've have been steadily growing over the last 14 years, and we felt like it was time where we needed to take another step, and so we're really, really excited about this location. It's just outside of Orangeville, where Brody and myself and my sister grew up and fell in love with the game of lacrosse for the first time. So it's a really, really exciting. It's a beautiful campus, 135 acres. We're going to have a brand new lacrosse stadium for our athletes, and it's finally the campus that our student athletes deserve. So we couldn't be more pleased about it.
Well, if you need like a resident announcer for the campus, just kind of lingering around calling sports all day long, you know who to call. You know who to call, Pat.
Okay, well, I did go to school with Teddy too, right?
Never mind that guy. Never mind.
No. We'll keep you in mind.
Okay,
Thanks,
okay, that's all I can ask for. Hey, let's talk about your San Diego Seals now, Patrick, and going into year two, a lot of things to be excited about. Offensively, defensively, the team rolling out lots of things this year as well. But I want to talk, let's start with the expansion draft losses, and a kid I know you're very high on, being an Orangeville guy, and him being an Orangeville player as well, in Rylan Hartley. And you can only protect one goaltender in that expansion draft, and you don't want to leave Frankie exposed. So I think you probably knew that one was coming in losing Hartley, which has got to sting a little bit, and you lose Connor Kelly as well. Just talk about those two players and the losses that they're going to leave.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's tough losing any player, especially two great kids that have a ton of potential, like Connor Kelly and Rylan Hartley. But we're happy for them both. We know that Rylan is going to get a really good opportunity to play right away, and I think he's ready for that. And he's going to get that opportunity in Rochester. I know they're really high on him. And same with Connor Kelly, being able to go back to the New York area where he grew up. And again, he's going to be able to play a more significant role there in New York than maybe he had with us last year. So we're really happy for the guys, but I can't speak highly enough about both of them. Very committed, talented young men that were, very, very, a really, really big part of our culture last year. And so they'll be missed, but we know they have great, long, successful careers ahead of them.
You lost a number of players on your offense this year, Turner Evans, Dan Dawson.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, of course, Austin Staats is still out injured. Most teams would have a tough time recovering from this, but all of a sudden you get Zach Greer, you get Westberg. You're going to have Connor Fields for the full season after the summer he's had. And you get Jeremy Noble, who didn't have the greatest year last year, but a change of scenery should help him develop.
Yeah, we're hoping. Again, Turner and Dan had phenomenal seasons for us last year, and and replacing them. They obviously, the new guys have some big shoes to fill. That being said, being able to acquire Zach, Wes, and Jeremy, to name a few. They all, I think, are going to fit in really well. I think all three of them have something to prove. With Wes and Zach, not playing last year, as well as Jer, like you said, kind of having a bit of a down season. We like the fact that they're coming in with a bit of a chip on their shoulder and they're able to commit fully to playing in San Diego, and they're excited for that change of scenery and to get started. And I think again, they're going to fit into our locker room really well as well. They all three of them have winning experience from the past and are true pros. Again, just like we were talking about before, it's always hard to lose players. That's the toughest part of the job. But at the same time, we think that we were able to make bring in some guys that are really going to help us this year.
Couple of guys, as we speak with the head coach and general manager of the San Diego Seals, Pat Merrill, a couple of guys that are a bit of an unknown, and I don't know if you can give us a status report on both of them here, Pat, but Adrian Soroketti, who's on the holdout list right now, and one of your coveted gets from last year, on the holdout list, and Evan mentioned the other guy in Austin Staats, who obviously went down with that big knee injury, and everybody wants to know how Audie's recovering and when he is going to return to the Seals lineup. Can you give us an update on the status of both Soroketti and Staats?
Yeah, well, Adrian right now, we're still hoping that he's going to be able to make it work and play in San Diego. Last year he was great for us. Again, a very steady veteran presence back on the back end that's pretty dynamic in transition, and he's a great person as well. He was a good leader for us in the room as well last year. So we're still hoping that we can figure things out and bring him back. But it's a challenge. He's based on the East Coast, and in this league, that's really important. Your lifestyle off the floor has to fit with your career on the floor. So we're just trying to work through some things, but we're hoping he's back. And with regards to Audie, we had Audie living in San Diego all summer long, and he came home a few times to visit family, etc. But I think we got a report on him yesterday. I think since he's been injured, he's done almost 90 physio sessions with our medical staff down in San Diego, and is probably in the best shape of his life right now. So we're hoping to have him back, if not for the start of the season, shortly thereafter. But he's progressing really well. And I think it's been really, really good for him to be working with our staff down in San Diego. It's not a bad place to spend your summer. But
not a bad place to spend your winter either, Pat.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. So and it's been great too, because Johnny Pearson, who also had a similar injury,
right? Yeah.
Last spring was able to stay down there with Austin as well, and they were able to rehab together, and I think that's worked out really well. So, and they're coming along nicely.
One of the players I had mentioned earlier, Connor Fields, we had Andy Towers on the program, about 2 months ago, and he called him the greatest field player in the world. You saw fit, even after just 2 games in the lineup, not a whole lot of box experience, to protect him in the expansion draft. This kid must have a ton of upside if you're protecting him in the expansion draft.
Yeah, great point. We're really high on Connor. I've seen Connor play. We used to play against him with with the Hill when he was in high school, and he used to.
What was he like?
Well,
I was going to say, what was Connor Fields like back in high school?
Yeah, he was virtually unstoppable. Is the quick answer to that. But you know what? He's got. First of all, I like him because I'm a big Montreal Canadiens fan, and he is one too, ironically. So that was a huge check mark beside his name. But
we got to go, Pat. I didn't realize you were a Canadian. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry, I just had to throw that in there. But he grew up in the Buffalo area, so he's played quite a bit of box lacrosse throughout the course of his life growing up in the game. So he's just. I think. NLL fans and indoor fans are going to be really impressed by his game and what he brings to the game. He's obviously very competitive. He's athletic. He can shoot the ball. He's a really intelligent player, etc. And he has some good experience. He played a little bit with the Oakville Rock too in major series lacrosse and had some success there. I have to give the kid a lot of credit. We dealt with some injuries late in the season last year on our left side, and he was able to step in with virtually no experience, coming off a pretty serious injury, and contribute right away for us. So, having a full training camp, and then hopefully staying healthy, knock on wood, for the entire season, we're really excited about what we think he can do.
I think it's my turn, I guess.
Yes, it is.
Okay. As we speak with Pat Merrill here on Lacrosse Classified, episode number 52 in the works here. Schedule. We ask every general manager about their schedule here, and we just talked to Dan Carey previous to you, Pat, and I thought, as far as schedules go, they got 8 out of 9 home dates on Saturday nights, and I thought, this is as good as it gets as far as a home schedule goes. But like every other GM we've talked to, it is what it is. Has kind of been their answer. We got some challenges. Yeah, we're not super happy about it, but we got to deal with what it is. It's like that for every team. As far as you go and the San Diego Seals go, I know there's a couple of to-be-determined dates on your home schedule, and I'm sure you're aware. I'm just gonna gloss over that, Patrick. But just tell me about the San Diego Seals and what you think about your schedule heading in here to 2019-20.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of, I don't like you probably, similar to the feedback that you got from other GMs. It kind of is what it is, and we're, but I would say, we're overall very pleased with our schedule. And, I think in this league, to be successful as a team and even as an individual, whether you're a coach or a player, you got to be adaptable to all different types of situations and really not get fazed by the things that you can't control. So that's the way we look at the schedule. I know, you just kind of glossed over that. We've got some pretty amazing announcements coming pretty soon. I can't break them here today, unfortunately, guys.
No, don't.
I wish I could.
Yes.
I wish I could, but
okay.
I know Steve Govett, our president, and Josh Gross, our VP of Business Operations, and our owner Joe. They have some pretty cool ideas in terms of some neutral site games. So I know that information is going to be released pretty soon, and
awesome.
But I can get an I can tell you right now that it's going to be really, really exciting for NLL fans. So
I can't wait.
I can't wait till it comes out.
Yeah, me either. You do have a nice little short jaunt from San Diego to Halifax this year. How forward are you looking for that?
Yeah, I might hang out in Ontario.
Yeah, I figured that might be the case.
Meet them there,
yeah.
But But no, it's again, we're looking forward to it. I think all teams would agree that some bonding on some long road trips helps overall throughout the course of the season,
sure.
And we know they have a lot of exciting things going down there, and they're doing a great job in Halifax promoting the team. And I personally, I have kind of roots down on the east coast of Canada, so I'm really looking forward to going to Halifax. I think they're gonna do well there, and I'm glad that we're able to be a part of their first season there.
A very successful first season for the Seals, a home playoff game you were one goal short of knocking off the Roughnecks, who eventually won the championship. What's in store for season 2? How do you get better and, maybe make it to the final or even win the whole thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say it was, it was a good season, but we obviously fell a little bit short of where we wanted to be to end the season, and but definitely lots of things that we can take from last year that we can build on this year, and I think from our perspective, we did our best. I think mainly on the offensive end to try and be a little bit more dynamic. And I think another area that we need to improve upon is just creating more opportunities in transition. I think overall we were pretty steady defensively, 5-on-5, and our special teams were okay. But I found late in the season, we kind of hit a bit of a wall. So again, the pieces that we brought in offensively, as we discussed earlier, I think it's going to be a matter of them kind of finding some chemistry, because we had a good, we had a good thing going up front, but we've got a lot of new faces up front. But once we do find that chemistry, I think we're going to be a little bit more dynamic up front. And then the other pieces that we brought in, either through the draft or through free agency, should hopefully help us in transition. But we have a good group of guys. Even though we lost quite a few faces from last year, I think overall with Brody and Kyle Buchanan and Cam Holding back, our leadership core, and Frankie between the pipes, and not really losing much on the defensive end, that we started the year with last year, I think again we can compete. But the Western Conference is going to be tough. Obviously Calgary's the team to beat. Of course, and I think they did a good job of getting better even over the off season. And then, we all know how good Saskatchewan is and how hungry they're going to be this year. And then, Colorado had a great second half of the year last year, and Vancouver's a lot better than they were last year as well. So we know that we can't take any game for granted, and with the new structure of the divisions, we're going to have to bring it every night. But our first goal, obviously, just like everybody else, is to make the playoffs, and then, but hopefully this year we can peak at the right time. I think that's very important too, is that, we kind of peaked halfway through the season last year and kind of hit a wall. And then, we had a competitive game in that playoff game, but we just kind of couldn't find ourselves in that last month of the season, which in this league, it's, like I said, it's very important to be able to come together, going into the playoffs and peaking kind of during that time. So hopefully we can prepare ourselves to do that.
Well, if anybody can prepare him, Pat Merrill, it's you. It was great to watch year 1 of the San Diego Seals. Can't wait to see how it rolls out for year number 2 for your boys in purple and gold there. Appreciate your time. Congratulations on the new facility for the Hill Academy. I think that's fantastic. And you got yourself a gold medal at the Minor Box Nationals. We didn't get a chance to even bring that up. Congratulations there as well.
Thanks.
And always good to talk to you, Pat. Appreciate your time, man.
Thanks again, guys. Appreciate all the kind words. And again, keep up the great work. You guys are doing an awesome job growing the game. So I appreciate the time.
Hey, our pleasure, man. Hey, by the way, that bit with Cam Holding down there in the San Diego Seals office on Halloween freaking people out, I thought that was absolute gold. So kudos to whoever put that together.
Steve's reaction? Okay. Steve's reaction was my favorite. Yeah. That was my favorite by far.
Absolutely. Yeah. I fully agree with that assessment. All right, Pat Merrill, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
Okay, boys. Thanks a lot.
All right,
Take care.
Pat Merrill, head coach, general manager of the San Diego Seals. And listen, when Steve Govett had to make that decision, Evan, on who was going to be his head coach and who was going to be his general manager, the staff that he had to put in place there, I think he found the right guy, and he hit a home run right out of the park on pitch number 1 here with Patrick Merrill.
No, he was the best junior coach available at the time, and absolutely perfect pick. The way they built that team so quickly, phenomenal. Their difficulty this year, like he said, is their division. And the third place team probably in the playoffs. The fourth place team is hanging by a thread. You're going to need to go hard out of the gate because there's not much time to catch up if you need to.
Well, hopefully Mr. Austin Staats and Johnny Pearson and company are ready to go out of the gates, and the West is going to be wild, man. Like he said it, Vancouver's improved. We know Colorado's going to be in the mix. Saskatchewan always good. Calgary, the defending champs, and San Diego's right there as well. So the West is going to be an absolute dogfight. It all gets going in just a matter of weeks as another week of our Stampede Tack NLL season previews done here on Lacrosse Classified. Toronto and Saskatchewan are up next week. Vancouver the following week after that. We're going to get somebody on from the PLPA as well and kind of get a state of the union from those guys before the season begins. And then we're going to clear the runway and hopefully get the commissioner on just before face-off weekend near the end of the month. That's kind of the schedule that's lining up here for the next few weeks. So Toronto and Saskatchewan are next for our Stampede Tack season previews. Look forward to that.
And of course, Jamie Dog, I can't thank him enough for what he did in episode 2. Finally letting the owners speak. So he's still got a special place in my heart because of that.
Wow, he's one of the best, man. He's one of the best. I know he's looking forward to coming on. I'm going to have to surprise Derek. I don't think he's not on social media. He's probably got no idea that I'm going to call him up and ask him to come on the show, but he'll show up when it matters. I'm sure he will. One more break to come here on Lax Class, and then we'll get into our news and notes and get you on your way here in episode number 52. Keep it right here on the Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network.
Associated Labels and Packaging is in the business of creating first impressions. They'll help you reflect your company values accurately by offering solutions that fit your product needs. With the latest in printing technology and over 35 years of experience, Associated Labels and Packaging is the perfect fit for your company to take your labels and packaging to the next level.
Hey, this is Pat Gregoire of Lacrosse Flash, and you're listening to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Lacrosse Classified here on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. Right there, Associated Labels and Packaging, one of our fabulous sponsors here on Lax Class, along with Pure Vita Labs, Stampede Tack, and Western Wear, and our brand new sponsor, the Vancouver Warriors, as well, Evan. Thanks to all our fabulous sponsors here for sponsoring the podcast. News and notes time, fourth quarter here on Lax Class. This is kind of where we like to keep you up to date on what's happening around the world of box lacrosse, and some notable contract signings over the past 4 or 5 days, Evan. Dylan Ward, the Wall, as they call him there in Colorado, 4-year deal with the Colorado Mammoth. Their key piece of their entire franchise, and they lock Dylan Ward up for 4 years.
Yeah, and they've actually done this a few times. They did it with Joey Capito last year for 5 years. Now, 4 years is technically the length of the CBA, although opt out after 2. But, lock him in. Why not? He's probably getting league max, I imagine, so it's not much to decide upon. Fabulous signing, of course, but 4 years is a rarity in the NLL.
It is. Zach Currier, one of the best players in the game overall, gets a 2-year deal out of Calgary. Ben McIntosh re-upping with the Saskatchewan Rush as well. So some notable names signing just before training camp here for the NLL season. Speaking of the NLL season, the Buffalo Bandits have been making, it kind of caught our group off guard here a little bit, and I know a number of people in Bandit land as well. I don't think the decision to name John Tavares the outright head coach in Buffalo is what everybody's scratching their head about, but the fact they did not offer Rich Kilgore a contract as the defensive coordinator once again has some people just kind of wondering what happened as the general manager, Steve Dietrich, will step onto the Buffalo bench and coach the defense this year. What do you make of this?
Yeah, we never got a full explanation on Kilgore. Now, the first explanation from Dietrich was he wanted one voice in the room. So, okay, it's time to get one of the two in there. But to not offer a contract to a coach where your defense drastically improved and was one of the main reasons you got into the final, I'm still trying to get my head around it.
Yeah, I think Richie Kilgore's name when it comes to coaches in line to find a new job in the National Lacrosse League got to be at the top of the list. So I don't know if there was maybe some fallout there or maybe just a difference of philosophy or what the case is. But John Tavares, now the outright head coach of the Buffalo Bandits, Kilgore out, and Dietrich, the general manager, will step onto the bench and coach the defense this year in Banditland, which will be an interesting development to watch play out. Austin Owens, our man, although he has yet to produce the Kurt Malowski mashup bench interview video that we're all waiting for here, Evan. He did take some time and did up a logo for Lacrosse Classified to maybe start printing some T-shirts and hats eventually. And I just want to give a shout out to my man Austin Owens for doing that. A real simple, clean. We might put that out online and just give people a little sneak peek.
Yeah, and of course, thanks to Austin for dealing with the two of us as to
high maintenance. High maintenance. Yeah, no,
and
tweak it.
Yeah,
no, I'm not quite there yet.
Little details here and there. So,
well, I mean, look at if you're gonna do it, you might as well have something that you're happy with. And Austin was more than happy to kind of put up with us and like, yeah, this isn't quite straight. We want this higher with different lettering. Anyways, we got something that we're both happy with, and we want to thank Austin Owens for that. What else do we got here? I want to give a quick shout out to Ashley Aiken, and you may be wondering who she is, and I don't know a whole lot about her, but I kind of came across this story. Somebody passed it along my way. She is back. Do you know about this this lady here, Evan? Ashley Aiken? Have you heard?
No,
of her?
I don't.
Okay, so she is back in Kenya teaching. She's from Peterborough, Ontario, and she's in Kenya teaching the Creators Game to the people of Kenya, and she's brought a bunch of Peterborough Lakers stuff there back with her, sticks and everything. She's teaching lacrosse to the Kenyans, and I just thought, this is awesome stuff, and I thought she deserves some recognition for it. So I probably should have had her Twitter handle at the ready here so you can kind of check out what she's doing, but it's Ashley Aiken. If you want to look her up, Aitken, and she's been working with Kenya Lacrosse and getting things started up there. And this is it's like, I love to see the game grow into parts of the world that have not been exposed to lacrosse before.
Yeah, there's only one or two members from Africa in the, now World Lacrosse. I keep wanting to say FIL.
Yes.
But, fabulous. I saw some of the photos. I even loved it that some of the kids were throwing with the traditional leathers, but you know what? They're just happy to have a stick in their hands and playing. So that's, at the grassroots, that's exactly how you grow the game.
Absolutely, absolutely. Emily Goss update. Just got one coming in. It's been about 4.5 months since Emily's accident. She's working harder and harder and harder every day. She's got a goal to be at home and start doing outpatient rehab by December 20th. She wants to be in her own bed, but I saw she had a picture of wearing her Antiques lacrosse gear as they came home and presented her with kind of the tribal staff, if you will. She got out to a salon and she's making her way around now. Like Evan, I know you don't know the Goss family personally, but they're huge here in British Columbia, obviously with Wayne Goss and the Sandbellies and Brett Mitski marrying a Goss and the whole family here. Warren Goss, the GM of the Junior Bellies, and it's just like they're synonymous here with lacrosse in BC. And just I cannot believe how when we got the news of Emily and this horrific crash that went down in London, Ontario, where she was hit by a drunk driver. If you're new to kind of the story, everybody was expecting the worst. I was expecting this is not going to end well, and Emily could very well pass away. And now she's at the point where her speech is coming back. She's still working physically to get a bit of her right side going, but the progress that she has made in a 4-month span, all of her doctors are just astounded by the work ethic and the progress that she has made. So I want to do my part and keep you updated on this story as it goes along, because it is just astronomical on the recovery that she has made since this horrific accident. So keep it going, Emily. The entire lacrosse community is behind you. A couple of more minutes here on Lacrosse Classified before we let you go. Evan, I want to ask you this question here, because somebody asked me the question, and I can't remember the guy's name that asked me, but I thought it was an interesting question, so I want to put it out to you. If you had your wish and you could get 2 new expansion teams in any location that you wanted, where would those 2 teams be? And if you could get 2 teams from yesteryear that used to be in the National Lacrosse League that you'd like to see come back, where would those 2 cities be? So 2 new ones, 2 former cities. Let me have it, Evan Schemenauer.
Yeah, without any preparation. Okay, so expansion teams. Does Dallas count as one of the 2? Because we pretty much know Dallas is the next expansion team. Does that count as one of the 2?
We think. No, this is not what I'm asking, Evan. I'm asking you if you could see any 2 cities. Yes. Doesn't.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, I got 3 in mind, and that's where.
Okay. No, but hang on. So the question is 2, Evan, not 3. I want 2.
I've got 4, so I'm going to put all 4 out, and then I'm going to decide. So the 4 are Dallas, Nashville, Vegas, and Winnipeg. Okay?
Okay.
So which of the 2? I think Nashville would be an amazing, amazing city to play in, and you just see the passion there.
That was one of mine.
I'm not convinced on Vegas yet. I just don't know if it will work or not. It's just too many entertainment options. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to say Winnipeg. I think Winnipeg would love a team there. I think there would be an instant rivalry with both Saskatchewan and Calgary.
Of course.
I think that's the other place I'd go to.
I think
are a lot of people going to travel to Winnipeg? No, but
who cares?
Who
cares? I mean, as long as Winnipeg, not a lot of people travel to Saskatoon either, right? But they pack it in at SaskTel. So you're coming at it. Hang on, Evan. You're coming at it like a bit like from a business perspective. You're choosing not where you'd like to go or watch games or where you think it would be cool. You're going where you think it would be the most successful.
You have to, because the thing is that we've seen too many teams fail. And the last thing I want to say is, let's put a team in, I don't know, let's say San Jose, which would be a great city to go visit, but it doesn't work, right? And so it's too short-term lived. That's I got to look at it from a business perspective.
So that's one of the teams that used to be in the National Lacrosse League, Evan, that are no longer there. So I don't think you want to put that one on your second answer here, but 2 markets that you'd like to see the NLL go back into.
Okay, so the first one's obvious. It's Minnesota.
Yeah,
and
one of mine as well.
They had decent attendance. It was just trying to get an arena deal worked out that they lost it. So I think with the right owner, one of the 2 major franchises there, I think Minnesota works again. The other place, because we got to get some East-West balance, I'm going to say Portland.
Okay. I like Portland. Way back, Evan, in 2007, called my very first NLL game in Portland. All the Morgan brothers, Dan Dawson, members of that team. Derek Keenan was the coach back then as well. 2007, down in Portland, called my first NLL game. I had a great time down in Portland. Good fan base down there as well. I don't think that's a bad selection. For me, I went Nashville and San Francisco because I think that they need some Western representation here and just kind of create that belt between San Diego and Vancouver, get an extra team in there. Portland would fit into that nicely as well. So my 2 new teams were Nashville and San Francisco, and my 2 returning teams were Minnesota and Edmonton because you need more Canadian teams. That rivalry between Edmonton and Calgary, I think, would be a fabulous one. I like the idea of Winnipeg and even Montreal at some point as well, and just get that cross-Canada. That way you can open up the market for a national TV deal as well here in Canada if you got teams right across the country. So for me, it was Minnesota, Edmonton, Nashville, and San Francisco. But just kind of a fun question to put out there on where you'd like to see the NLL go into and maybe return to as well. Almost done here. I want to get this in, Evan. I mentioned the Rhinestone Cowboy last week. We thought we had a spot picked out. Didn't work out. Tomorrow, I believe, is the big day, Evan. I don't know. I don't even want to tell people where I'm going to do this because I'm afraid people are going to show up and it's going to put extra pressure on me. So anyways, I got
we're making sure a few people make the trip.
I got a spot picked out for tomorrow. I've confirmed that they do in fact have karaoke on Tuesdays. I've gotten the night off from my daughter. I got somebody to film it. I think my sister, who's a big singer, she's like a professional singer. So she's the one that steered me into this direction. I think her and her husband are even going to come out to support me as well. So look for this bad boy. Maybe we'll drop it next week if it doesn't come out earlier than that. But I think I think it's going down tomorrow, and I think I'm going to try and do the full deal, Evan. The full 3 minutes and 23 seconds of the timeless classic Rhinestone Cowboy from an undisclosed location here in the Lower Mainland.
Come on. We got to disclose the location and let a few fans of the show come.
I'm going to say.
Come on, we're growing the fan base here. We're growing the fan base here, so let us know, where are we going? Where are we going?
Oh, man. Okay, I'll just say we're going to Shooters in Pitt Meadows around 8 o'clock tomorrow night, I think, is the location.
Tomorrow night meaning Tuesday or Wednesday?
Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, Shooters, Pitt Meadows. If you want to watch, witness some carnage and have your ears bleed, feel free to come on out. And I like, hopefully the crowd gets behind me here. I'm going to, hopefully they sing the chorus with me or something. I don't know. But there's your Rhinestone Cowboy bet update. Tomorrow is the big day. You got anything else, Evan? I think that's it.
No, good opening day. I only made it to the opening day of the Rush camp, but good opening day. Not a whole lot of competition, but good to see a few players from the SWAT out there.
Yeah.
And I think one of them might make the practice roster, just because they need an extra forward. And, having those two players there, even if they don't make the practice roster, they're in market.
It's good for everybody. It's good for everybody. Yeah. Once again, I would really like to welcome aboard our brand new sponsor here on Lacrosse Classified, the Vancouver Warriors. Don't forget, fans, season tickets, flex packs, group tickets, and more. There are plenty of ways to get to a Vancouver Warriors game on any budget. For tickets, visit VancouverWarriors.com or call 604-899-4625. Option 3, probably get my man Chad.
Yeah, Chad.
on the other line, and he'll hook you up. Vancouver Warrior, where nothing is offside. There's no offside in lacrosse, Evan. That's the kind of the play on words there. And nothing offside when you go to Rogers Arena. You want to get after it and party a little bit. Head to a Warriors
game.
Chad
is a good guy.
The Chad's the man.
He'll take good care of you.
Chad is the man. No question about it. And, of course, our other sponsors, Pure Vita Labs at PVL.com, Associated Labels and Packaging, Associated-Labels.com, and Stampede, Tack, and Western Wear, Stampede.ca, where shopping online is still shopping local. Big thanks to all our sponsors, to Dan Carey and Patrick Merrill for stopping by the show and giving us a preview for the Knighthawks and the Seals. And, of course, you, the listener, for checking out Lacrosse Classified every single week. 52 episodes, Evan. Next week will be a full calendar year. It'll be our first show of year number 2. A week from now when we talk to Jamie Dowick and Derek Keenan. Don't forget to follow us along on social media. Evan was complaining earlier that he's still not to 1,000 followers on Twitter. Maybe we can change that right here, right now, Evan, on the podcast. Follow Evan at Shem Lax. I told Evan he needs to follow more people. He's very particular. So you're not going to get any more followers until you start following more people, Evan. So that's on you a little bit as well. You can follow me at PXP, the number 4 sports. Any social media platform you want to find me, it's PXP for sports. You'll find me right there. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast as well. Anywhere you listen to a podcast, you're going to find Lacrosse Classified via the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. And the show is at Lax Class on Twitter and Lacrosse Classified on Instagram. We got it all in, Evan. Episode number 52 is done. Thanks for joining us. For Evan Sheminar, I've been Jake Elliott, and for the fastest game on 2 feet. And for the creator, enjoy the games, everybody.